Hello, all 475 of you avid consumers of Pax Dei content and the nearly 60% of you who have not yet hit that subscribe button. My name is Eltari, the professional gamer, and this is another Pax Friday review, the show where we talk about all the fun, interesting, new, and exciting information that has dropped for Pax Dei over the last week. This week, we got several new screenshots to go over, including gardening, as well as some exploration of the world of Pax Dei. And a developer from Mainframe dropped into the Pax Dei Discord channel to discuss mounts and mounted combat. So I figured today would be a good day to talk about all things regarding mounts, what we would like to see, what we know, and hopefully what will be in game in the future. With all of that being said, don't forget to like this video if you enjoy this form of content, share it with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei, and as always, hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified of any and all new videos that come out with regards to Pax Dei in the future. Let's go ahead and get on into it. All right, so here we go. The first set of screenshots had to do with gardening. The first picture that we have here is of a backyard. We can see that there's several different trellises of different plants, a lot of plants kind of lining on the outside. Now, we've seen all of these different potted plants before, like the ones hanging off of the side of buildings, but we haven't seen them all lined up together. This almost makes me wonder if this might be a part of the cultivation system at some point in time. We know that farming is going to be a thing that exists in Pax Dei, and this looks like it might potentially be one of the first iterations of that. We can see that there might be some kind of wood trellis right here. Here's another image. You have the flowers out here, a nice little chair and stool right there, as well as some more tiered flower pots as well. And this looks like it's a shot from the top. We have our workbenches all scattered around. Looks to be on top of a really nice scenic hill. Here is what looks to be a screenshot of the front of that house. The shutters also can be closed, so they're not just statically opened. So that's a really nice touch there as well. And here's another image of the front of the house. You can see the doors there, but just another great artistic shot of whoever is the owner of this fine establishment looking out, enjoying their wonderful garden. An interesting little bit here is it looks like there's a rock that's inside of the actual building. I don't know if the player has built around this rock or if it's something that they placed, but that was something that I noticed as we were there. And this also is a really nice close-up shot of some of these workstations. This one over here looks like it might be a jewelry station just because of the necklace that's hanging right there, as well as kind of some of the tools. Then we have a very dimly lit picture of what appears to be an attic space, though it looks like it might even go slightly higher. I like how the players are scattering around a lot of their chests and barrels and all of that. I wonder if these barrels actually can store material in them. That would be really cool. And we also can see, I don't think we've seen this before, but if you look right here, these look like nails. So this might actually be one of the first times that we've seen a component of building and what that looks like. So I wonder what nails are used for. I wonder if this is something that you build the house with, if it's going to be a component. So instead of needing wood and just stacking wood together, you need to have nails as well. That is really interesting. And I wonder what other types of components actually go into building your structures. Here we can see another shot of what looks to be the inside of this house, and the flower theme carried throughout. This player did a really good job of making sure their place is furnished with a lot of pretty flowers. Now, the next set of screenshots, we moved into someone who's out and exploring. There's a lot of different locations that they go to. This appears to be a small little village off on an island with what seems to be a player-made bridge going across the water. And they also have a lot of different weapons in their inventory. We can see that there's a shield. Now, all of these have a lot of these pit marks on them. In one of our previous videos, we actually mentioned that this might be some kind of tier or quality kind of indication. In some games, that's what typically goes here. So I wonder if that's the case, because there's a lot of different pit marks on all of these. Also, it looks like there might be a new weapon here in the 8 slot. It is what looks to be almost like a halberd or some kind of axe. To me, it almost looks like a halberd, but who knows? There's an axe literally right next to it, so I'm sticking with a halberd. Then right here, we have another image of a just lakeside or riverside home. I like how they have the little balcony on the top of their roof there to kind of add a little bit more texture. Now, this is something that I actually think is really cool. And the reason for that is this, to me, looks like it's a mine. It really looks like it's a mine. It's in this mountainous kind of area. It's very industrial. You have what looks to be almost like a mine shaft right here. Though I think this is what we've seen before, a furnace, but it's a very nicely compact, walled off little section of area. And I wonder if this player chose this area because of maybe some of the rock formations that are back here, and there's some resources that they can be gathering from this location. Then over here, we have another shot of what appears to be one of the areas that we saw last week in last week's video, because there's this tower here, but it looks possibly more developed. Then what seems to be a very small lookout overlooking a bridge. Now, this bridge looks intrinsically different than the first bridge that we saw. That one was definitely player made. It was made out of wood. But this one, we can see what looks to be the differences between stone. This definitely looks like the stone walls or stone pillars that we've seen players building with previously. And we can tell that there's what looks to be a thatch roof over the top. But then this appears to be almost like a prefabricated type of structure. This might be something that is just in the world, and it's an artifact of one of the ancient civilizations that have gone long extinct in Pax Dei. Then we have another image. We can see a really long bridge, again player made, as well as a tower of some sort. I can't tell if that's a gallows or not, but it's on an island. I do wonder what is making all of these trees dead in this area, because it seems like they otherwise are living in a quite sustainable area for trees. So I wonder why they're all dead. Now we have another image of this Riverlands area from a different perspective. It looks like over on the right-hand side here, there might be some ruins of some sort. And then these are the homes that we've seen previously. And then here we actually have, I don't know if this is a cave, but we have seen some gameplay footage of caves previously and people exploring them. But this almost looks like a gladiator. This is actually really cool. I don't know if they don't have pants or if they're just dyed a certain color, but to me, it looks like they are just a gladiator mood right here with their bronzy kind of helmet as well. And then right here, this looks like a marriage of player-made structures as well as a prefabricated ruin of sorts. And we've seen this ruin or a similar type before, where it's this giant tower that has some wood structures kind of going around it and a lot of different entry and exit points. And I think this might be a area of interest because we've seen similar ruins like this before. And here is another angle of that really nice scenic shot there. All right, so that is all that we have for this week's screenshots. And now I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about mounts. So let's go ahead and get into that mount conversation. All right, so for the last bit of this video, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about mounts in Pax Dei. Now, in the original trailer, we saw what looks to be a pack mule or a pack horse carrying a lot of gear on it as the players were traveling throughout the world. It had a saddle on it, and the devs have multiple times confirmed that there will be some form of mounts in game. They also mentioned that there should be animal husbandry as well. And this week we got some really exciting information with regards to mounts and how that would work in Pax Dei. There were a couple of caveats to that. One is it's not something that we will see in the initial alpha release, most likely. Mounts specifically are probably not going to be a feature that is going to release on the initial alpha release, but it is a feature that seems to be a little bit further along than maybe some other more in-depth features. Now, the specific developer who is talking about this is Spire, who's been a great source of information over the last couple of weeks. So thank you, Spire. But in this particular discussion, players were asking Spire about mounts and what we can expect with mounts, at least on the first iteration and possibly in the future. And one of the more exciting topics of discussion was combat on mounts and whether or not we will be able to do melee combat versus ranged combat. Melee combat on mounts is a little bit difficult because of how the server is working with actual combat and where the collisions are coming in and how melee combat works. And more ranged combat, like shooting a bow from the top of some kind of mount, is going to be something that's a lot less difficult for the server to process as opposed to melee combat. But we have a couple of really great examples of mount combat that I personally have really enjoyed in games previously and would like to see more of from Pax Dei in the future. One of the best MMOs as an example for how to do mounts, and what I think really changed the gaming industry when it comes to MMO mounts and the features associated with them, is actually Guild Wars 2. Specifically with the Path of Fire expansion. And these mounts weren't just your normal mount that you pull out, you maybe buy a skin at the online store, and you look really cool as you're walking around. These mounts actually had gameplay features associated with them. You could get on top of a jackal who could teleport and help you traverse the world in a certain way. You could get a griffin that would allow you to glide or even gain elevation depending on how good you were and where your talents were allocated. And this level of dynamic mount gameplay led to a lot of enriched features throughout the entire game. Now, for Pax Dei, I really do hope that the devs take some inspiration for mounts and potentially mount-based combat or mount-based puzzles within the world, that mounts can give you access to enriched gameplay features, and they're not just a method to get from point A to point B quicker. That's always a really nice feature to have, but being able to do other things on mounts adds to gameplay and makes it more enjoyable in and of itself. What I'm not talking about is just having mount daycare where you have to take care of your pet and you have to make sure it's fed and you have to do all of that. But I think it would also be really, really cool for mounts to have other side aspects to them. Maybe this Pax Dei is set in medieval times, right? So jousting, if you live in Europe, jousting is still a thing that happens, at least according to YouTube. So there are amazing opportunities for Mainframe to come up with even just mini games or tournaments that players can have with their mounts and have that tie into the creature handling system. And even if there's breeding or something like that, you can create a huge amount of systems and gameplay elements that enrich the features of players and enrich their experience. So I really do hope that Mainframe takes some inspiration from Guild Wars 2 or from other similar MMORPGs in that way. That's about all that we've learned about mounts. And in terms of where I believe it's going to be in the future, we're still not even in alpha yet, but it sounded like, based off of what Spire was saying, that horses and mounts might be something that are coming a little bit further down the line, but they might not be as far away as we think they are. So that's really exciting to know. It's just generally exciting to know that the Pax Dei Alpha is happening in 3 months or less at this point, right? So it's going to be great to be in game and to be exploring the world with all of you. That being said, if you haven't done so already and you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to hit that like button. Share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei. And as always, subscribe to this channel so that you can get notified whenever there's new information dropped about Pax Dei. Until next week, I'm Eltari, the Professional Gamer.